Hello Windows Analysis. We explore the Windows universe, performance, hidden settings, history, hacks, and updates. If you like understanding your system, stay tuned. Today we're going to dive deep into a tool that, well, we all use every single day, File Explorer. And I have to ask, have you noticed that in Windows 11 it just doesn't feel as snappy as it used to? That little hesitation? Well, it is not just you. And together, we are going to unravel the mystery behind this slowdown.
Right, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's that tiny but oh-so-perceptible delay when you open a folder or, right-click on a file. These are things that should be instantaneous, gone in the blink of an eye. So today we're going to break down exactly why this is happening. We'll get into the technology and, more importantly, the design decisions that led us here.
To really get what's going on now, we first have to take a quick trip back in time. Let's call it the golden age of Explorer. A time when its biggest feature wasn't how pretty it was, but its pure, raw, unadulterated speed.
This whole journey really kicks off way back in 1995. Windows Explorer showed up with Windows 95, and it was a massive deal. It replaced the old file manager and introduced things we totally take for granted now, like the Start menu and the taskbar. And over the years, through versions like XP and especially with Windows 7, it just got better and better. It became an incredibly stable, efficient, and, most importantly, lightning-fast tool.
So, what was the secret sauce? What made it so fast? Well, its architecture was built directly on something called the Win32 API, which is basically the very guts of the Windows operating system. This meant that any communication was direct. There were no middlemen, no layers, making it super lightweight. You clicked and boom, it worked. It was just pure efficiency.
But then Microsoft decided that just being fast wasn't enough. Explorer also had to be beautiful. It had to be modern. And this, right here, is where our story takes a pretty dramatic turn. Let's jump into the next phase, the big modernization effort.
Okay, let's be honest. The visual leap is undeniable. We went from the purely functional, sharp-edged Explorer of Windows 10 to the whole new vibe of Windows 11. You know the look. Rounded corners, those subtle see-through transparencies with the mica effect. It's all part of a design language they call fluent design. And Microsoft's goal here was crystal clear. They wanted a unified, consistent look for the entire system.
And the key piece of this whole puzzle? It's something called WinUI 3. Just think of it as the brand new graphics engine for Windows, designed specifically to create all these modern interfaces. It's what makes those fluid animations and fancy visual effects possible. But, and this is a big but, this is where we get to the heart of the problem. Because all of this visual beauty, all this modernity, it did not come for free.
Yep, this modernization brought with it a hidden cost, a kind of technical tax that we are now paying in milliseconds every single time we click a folder.
This quote I found from a Reddit user just sums it up perfectly. It's not a problem with your computer or my computer, no, it's a shared experience among thousands and thousands of users. It's that feeling that a tool that was once a total powerhouse now just feels clumsy. And look, this isn't just a feeling. Performance tests actually confirm that basic actions take measurably longer in Windows 11. So what is the technical reason for all of this? The answer is in that technical tax we have to pay. See, the Windows 11 Explorer wasn't completely rewritten from scratch. It's a hybrid, a sort of technological Frankenstein. The engine, the part that actually manages your files and folders, is still the same old fast Win32 code, but on top of it, they've slapped on a modern coat of paint, that WinUI 3 interface.
I love this analogy. Imagine trying to put a super modern electric engine into the chassis of a car from the 1970s. You could probably do it, but you'd need a ton of adapters, weird cables, and all sorts of workarounds to make everything connect. Well, the technology that bridges that old Win32 world with the new WinUI world is called XAML Islands. And those are the adapters, and every single time information has to cross one of those bridges, a little bit of time is lost.
And this right here, this really gets to the core of the problem. On one side, you've got the classic Win32 way. It's a direct highway, no tolls, no stops, which means minimal latency. On the other side, you've got the modern WinUI 3 model. It's a path full of toll booths, with those XML island bridges and that complex rendering process, which just inevitably adds a delay. This explains perfectly why something that used to feel instant now has that small but really annoying lag.
Now, Microsoft is, of course, very aware of all these complaints. They haven't been ignoring the problem.
So let's take a look at the solutions they've tried to implement to mitigate this slowness that's been driving so many of us a little bit crazy.
So, their main solution for that slow initial startup is something called preloading. The idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of waiting for you to click the icon to launch Explorer from zero, the system starts a tiny hidden version in the background when you turn on your computer. That way, when you actually need it, it's already warmed up. But this solution has a cost. There's some fine print here.
And the data here really tells a fascinating story. In Windows 10, Explorer is instant and uses about 30 megabytes of RAM. Simple. In Windows 11, with preloading turned on, okay, the opening time gets a little better, but look at this. The base RAM consumption more than doubles, jumping to nearly 70 megabytes. And here's the kicker. It's still not as fast as it was in Windows 10. So this isn't really an optimization. It's more like a patch on an architecture with some pretty fundamental problems.
Now, to be fair, Microsoft is still working on this. In recent updates like 24H2, they have introduced more improvements. For instance, they've optimized file search to cut down on those RAM spikes, they've finally fixed that infamous white flash bug when you're using dark mode, and importantly, they've actually listened to feedback and brought back the text labels for icons like copy and paste.
And all of this brings us to the grand conclusion, the central dilemma that really defines not just the evolution of File Explorer, but in a way, the evolution of the entire Windows operating system these past few years. When you boil it all down, it's a balancing act. On one side of the scale, you have that instant fluidity, that immediate responsiveness that the classic Win32-based Explorer gave us. On the other side, you have modern aesthetics, visual consistency across the system, and all the new functionality that WinUI 3 promises. For years now, it really seems like Microsoft has been tipping that scale clearly towards the side of style, sacrificing that feeling of immediacy that was, for decades, a pillar of the Windows experience.
So, the final question is really for you. Was it worth it? Was sacrificing that fluidity worth it for a more modern-looking interface? Is it a fair price to pay for a prettier system, or was something really essential lost along the way? And that's it for today's analysis. If you liked it, subscribe, leave a like, and a comment. Enjoy tinkering, and see you in the next Windows analysis video.